This is the weekly Roundup on EAC News Channel. Your look back at the past week in the Kingdom of Wonder, and a very good evening to you. I am Dekanin, and let's start with Monday. Prime Minister Hun Sen has announced that he may choose to go to Ong Duong Hospital to regularly check his eye and ear problems from during the war. This is following the inauguration of the new Cambodia-Korea Friendship Ear, Nose and Throat building at Ong Duong Hospital. EAC News reporter Ashana Gojin has the details.
Speaking at the inauguration ceremony of the Cambodia-Korea Friendship ENT building of Ong Duong Hospital on the morning of Monday, 28 March, Prime Minister Hun Sen recalled the history of his eye accident and the ear problems he developed from extended exposure to the sound of gunfire during the Khmer Rouge, which he has lived with now for more than 40 years. He stated that in the future he may come to Ong Duong Hospital in person for regular checkups.
មកកាន់មន្ទីរពេទ្យអង្គឌួងនេះមិនមែនម្ដងទេគឺនឹងច្រើនដងសម្រាប់ភ្នែកផងហើយក៏សម្រាប់ត្រចៀកផងដែរប៉ុន្តែត្រចៀកវាមិនជាបញ្ហាទេឥឡូវមិនមានបញ្ហាអីនោះទេក៏ប៉ុន្តែយើងត្រៀមទុកថាទីកន្លែងណាដែលយើងត្រូវពឹងពាក់សម្រាប់ខ្លួនខ្ញុំនៅក្នុងការពិនិត្យព្យាបាល
The Cambodia-Korea Friendship ENT building began construction in March 2020 and was completed 2 years later on 20th March 2022. The Republic of Korea not only assisted in the construction of this building, but also provided technical and scientific assistance to the hospital. While speaking at the ceremony, the Prime Minister asked the Korean side to transfer any latest hospital technology that Korea has to the Cambodian medical team, while also urging the Cambodian medical team to take in as much knowledge as possible from the Korean medical team. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen responded to a social commentator who said that the reason Cambodia does not support Russia in the attack on Ukraine is because of the limited capabilities of the Cambodian military. The Prime Minister stressed that this commentator clearly does not understand Cambodia's foreign policy, which is opposed to any use of force or aggression against another country. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
Speaking at the inauguration ceremony of the Cambodia-Korea Friendship ENT, Nose and Throat Building Hospital of Ong Duong Hospital on Monday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen said that Cambodia's foreign policy is based on the law and the Constitution of the United Nations, not on the use of force. He said that although Russia, a friend of Cambodia, has helped Cambodia in the past, the country's official position is still opposed to use of force or the threat of using force against any other country, to respect the independence and sovereignty of other countries.
ខ្ញុំសូមបញ្ជាក់កម្ពុជាប្រកាន់ជំហរជាគោលការណ៍មិនថាតែរុស្ស៊ីទេប្រទេសណាក៏ដោយដែលឆ្លៀនពៀនទៅកាន់ប្រទេសមួយទៀតកម្ពុជាប្រឆាំងជានិច្ចសកម្មភាពឆ្លៀនពៀនបែបនេះកម្ពុជាមិនអាចទទួលយកបានហើយក៏មិនអាចអភិក្រិតបានទេថ្ងៃក្រោយបើសិនជាប្រទេសណាមួយធ្វើមកលើអេរិយាបថបែបនេះមកលើកម្ពុជាតើកម្ពុជាត្រូវទៅពឹងពាក់ណា
On the 3rd of March, Cambodia voted with 140 other countries to support a UN resolution calling for Russia to immediately, completely and unconditionally withdraw all its military forces from the territory of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. Russia's invasion of Ukraine began the 24th of February and has now lasted for over a month. Russian President Vladimir Putin has made a justification for his action by saying that there are an urgent need for Russia to launch a military operation to demilitarize Ukraine in order to protect the Donbas Republic and to ensure that Russia would not be under NATO threat from Ukraine territory. The UN reports that more than 10 million Ukrainians have already fled their homes, with over 3.5 million seeking refuge in other countries. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The Cambodia-Korea Friendship ENT building of Ong Duong Hospital, which took 2 years to build with a grant from the Republic of Korea, was officially inaugurated on Monday, 28th of March under the presidency of the Prime Minister Hun Sen. Construction for the building began on the 12th of March 2020 and was completed on the 20th of March 2022 with a total budget of more than $8 million. EAC News reporter Ashana Gojin has the details.
Speaking at the inauguration ceremony of the Cambodia-Korea Friendship ENT building of Ong Duong Hospital, the Minister of Health, Mom Bun Heng, said that this building is the second achievement made under Cambodia-Korea cooperation, following the eye center that was officially launched in May 2015. He added that the new ENT building would help to boost Cambodia's health services to another level. He said, "This achievement showcases the invaluable bond, friendship, and cooperation between the Royal Government of Cambodia and the Government of the Republic of Korea, which is constantly being strengthened and expanded under the wise leadership of Prime Minister Hun Sen, along with the leadership from Korea." The building has 5 floors and is built on a total land area of 4,177.94 square meters. There are a total of 128 beds in the new building, which includes an outpatient examination room, post-surgery room, and emergency room. The ambassador of the Republic of Korea to Cambodia, Park Hung-kyung, stated that in the last 5 years, Cambodia and Korea have been working together on a project to build the Ear, Nose, and Throat Center at Ong Duong Hospital to increase the capacity of the health sector in Cambodia, particularly in the field of ENT specialization. He said he considers the Cambodia-Korea Friendship ENT building to be a strong part of the joint effort between the two countries. He said, Preong Dung Hospital plays an important role in the treatment of ear, nose, and throat diseases, and the most important part is to provide training to medical students. Now, this new building for treating ear, nose, and throat diseases, equipped with modern diagnostics and surgical treatment equipment, will take the hospital to a whole new level. I really believe that it will be another important part of the development of the health sector in Cambodia. Preong Dung Hospital has been a public administrative institution since November 2012 for the treatment of ears, nose, throat, eyes, mouth, teeth, and skin, and with departments in cosmetic surgery, gynecology, general surgery, and diabetes. The hospital became the first public hospital to process digital patient registrations and prescriptions. Presiding over the ceremony, Prime Minister Hun Sen delivered his speech and said that the new building shows the dedication of the Royal Government of Cambodia, cooperating with development partners to bring specialty medical services to meet the needs of the Cambodian people. He added that in the future, an ophthalmology center will also be built at Preong Dung Hospital. The Prime Minister expressed his satisfaction over the diplomatic relations with the Republic of Korea, which has brought many aid projects to Cambodia, including projects in the fields of health, education, culture, information, and communication technology.
នោះហើយតែហៅថាផ្លែផ្កានៃទំនាក់ទំនងរវាងកម្ពុជានិងកូរ៉េក្នុងឋានៈជាអ្នកនាំមុខនិងជាស្ថាបនិកនៃទំនាក់ទំនងកម្ពុជានិងសាធារណរដ្ឋកូរ៉េគឺពិតជាមានមោទនភាពដោយសារតែយើងបានចាប់ជ្រើសរើសយកនយោបាយការទូតរបស់យើងបានត្រឹមត្រូវហើយយើងបានថែរក្សានៅទំនាក់ទំនងនេះរហូតមកដល់ពេលនេះ
Prime Minister Hun Sen played an important role in the re-establishment of Cambodia-Korea relations in 1997. Over the past 25 years, bilateral relations between the two countries have reached a new high, with joint projects to boost health, trade, investment, tourism, and development assistance, and with cooperation between the two counterparts seen in many fields ranging from politics to economics. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
The Vice Chairman of the Cambodian Human Rights Committee, Chit Jili, has stated that all entries in the draft law on the establishment of national human rights institutions mentioned by civil society organizations will be discussed, but they must be based on the 1993 Paris Principles. He made this statement during a consultation meeting of the Cambodian Human Rights Committee in collaboration with the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights on the draft law on the organization and functioning of the Cambodian National Human Rights Committee on Monday morning. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the story.
Addressing the meeting, Vice Chairman Chet Chili stated that the conclusion workshop was held to collect input from civil society organisations working on children's issues to ensure transparency and participation from all stakeholders. He stressed that all comments made to civil society organisations at the meeting will be considered for inclusion in the law, but also along with the lines of the 1993 Paris Principles. The Deputy Representative of United Nations Human Rights in Cambodia, Claudia de la Fuente, said that the establishment of the Cambodian National Human Rights Commission was important in promoting and protecting human rights in Cambodia as well as for collaborating with the Cambodian Human Rights Institution. 17 organisations participated in Monday morning's constitution, including 10 associations working with the women and children, 2 under the OHCHR and 5 under the Cambodian human rights community. The National Human Rights Institution named the National Committee for Human Rights of Cambodia as an independent, neutral, natural body working in the field of human rights. The draft law on organisations and functioning of the Cambodian National Human Rights Committee began drafting in 2019 between the Cambodian Human Rights Committee, the United Nations High Commission on Human Rights, and the Asian Pacific Forum based in Australia. Since July 2021, National Human Rights Committee launched, disseminated and consulted on the draft law of the public with stakeholders such as NGOs, civil society, union political parties and relevant ministries, institutions in order to gather views, opinions and other input in the draft law to ensure that this law is in line with the Paris Principles and the international minimum standards of the establishment of the National Human Rights Institution. Once the National Human Rights Body is established, it will go through an accreditation process recognised by the Global Alliance of the National Human Rights Institutions, one of the world's international recognised NHRIs. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Myanmar's junta chief Myong Leng on Sunday, March 27th, has said that the military will not negotiate with terrorist opposition forces, vowing to annihilate them during a speech on Armed Forces Day, as opponents of last year's coup vowed they will also fight on.
The military known as Tatmadaw has celebrated with a parade of troops and weapons in the capital, Nay Pyi Taw, for the second year since overthrowing the elected government of Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi on February 1, 2021. Junta leader Min Aung Hlaing, in his speech, has rejected any talks with terrorists. A 5-point peace plan by the Association of Southeast Asian Nations calls for talks on all sides, but so far has been little progress. The junta accuses opposition armed forces of killing civilians and security forces in its resistance campaign, while activists say the military has killed hundreds in crackdowns since the coup. Myanmar has been plagued by violence since the military seized power, upending a decade of tentative democratic and economic reforms. More than 1,700 people have been killed and almost 13,000 arrested, according to rights groups Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, AAPP. Anti-coup protesters came out on streets in Myanmar on Sunday morning, opposing the coup, carrying signs saying, "Uproot the fascist military."
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, visibly irritated on Saturday, March 26, has demanded Western nations to provide a fraction of the military hardware in their stockpiles, and he has asked whether they were afraid of Moscow.
Several countries have promised to send anti-armor, anti-aircraft missiles and small arms to Ukraine, but Zelensky has said that Kyiv needs tanks, planes, and anti-ship systems. Zelensky has repeatedly insisted that Russia will seek to expand further into Europe if Ukraine falls. NATO, however, has not backed his request to declare a no-fly zone over Ukraine on the grounds that this could provoke a wider war. Earlier in the day, Zelensky spoke with Polish counterpart Andrzej Duda and expressed disappointment that Russian-made fighter aircraft in Eastern Europe had not yet been transferred to Ukraine, according to a statement made by Zelensky's office. The price of procrastination with planes is thousands of lives of Ukrainians, the office quoted him saying. Zelensky has also said that Poland and the United States had both stated their readiness to make a decision on the planes. Earlier this month, Washington rejected a surprise offer by Poland to transfer MiG-29 fighter jets to a U.S. base in Germany to be used to replenish Ukraine's air force.
The Secretary General of the International Organization for Francophonie, Louise Mouchiki-Vabo, informed Prime Minister Hun Sen that her purpose in bringing investors from 24 French-speaking countries to Cambodia is to visit, explore, and seek investment with Cambodian investors. She also said that Cambodia is a model country among all French-speaking countries. EAC News reporter Dashana Gojin has more.
In a meeting with Prime Minister Hun Sen held on the morning of Tuesday, 29th March at the Peace Palace in Phnom Penh, the Secretary General of the International Organization for Francophonie, Louise Mushikawabo, said that during her recent visit to Cambodia, investors from a number of French-speaking countries signed a memorandum of understanding with Cambodian investors while assessing the economic situation and investment. The Prime Minister's assistant, Ieng Sopalait, told reporters after the meeting, the IOF Secretary General informed Prime Minister Hun Sen that the purpose of her and her delegation's visit to Cambodia is to foster cooperation in the field of investment and trade so that it can continue to grow and become lasting. Her visit now is the starting point for future cooperation. In response to the IOF Secretary General, Prime Minister Hun Sen praised the search for cooperation between investors from French-speaking countries to Cambodia and said, economy, trade, and investment are at the heart of cooperation between Cambodia and the Francophone International Organization. Ieng Sopalait quoted Prime Minister Hun Sen saying, "Our country and our region have potential. We just do not have yet the opportunity. We should have to work together to seize the opportunities we have, not only to strengthen and expand cooperation between the two countries, but also for the political relations between our two countries. Because good economic relations, trade, and investment will lead to political closeness." The IOF was founded on 20th March 1970 by former Senegalese President Leopold Sedar Senghor, Tunisian President Habib Bourguiba, Nigerian President Hamani Diori, and King Norodom Sihanouk of Cambodia. The IOF promotes the French language and fosters political, educational, economic, and cultural cooperation among its 88 member countries, including Cambodia. Darshana Gauchan, EAC News.
The chairman of the Cambodian Human Rights Committee and the Cambodian representative to the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights, Guy Remy, said that the first day of the Archer workshop focused on evaluating the overall plan and the implementation of the Archer program based on the old mandate from 2019 to 2021. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the details.
The ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission of Human Rights has organised a workshop to evaluate the overview of the plan of the old mandate from 2019 to 2021 and to prepare the implementation of the new 2022 to 2024 mandate. The AICHR representative for 2022 to 2024 is the chairman of the Cambodian Human Rights Committee, Kiao Rami. Speaking during the open ceremony of the first day of the AICHR workshop on Tuesday, 29th of March, the CHRC chairman, Kiao Rami, stated that the workshop aims to facilitate and transition of the work between what has been completed and what will be done, and to ensure that the AICHR community of institutions strengthens its relationships with stakeholders. AICHR was established on the 23rd of October 2009 and the 15th ASEAN Summit in Thailand. The establishment of AICHR demonstrates ASEAN commitment to pursuing a forward-looking strategy to strengthen regional cooperation on human rights. It is an integral part of the ASEAN organisation structure and a joint governing body with overall responsibility for the promotion and protection of human rights in the ASEAN region. After Tuesday morning workshop, AICHR assistant to Cambodia and a member of the CHRC, Sreng Chenda, said that his workshop discussions also focus on the AICHR's standard documents, which former representatives also sharing other documents. These human rights documents in question include an ASEAN Charter, the Asian Declaration of Human Rights, and the terms of the AICHR. Since its inception in 2009, AICHR has had 14 functions set out in its terms of reference. AICHR has been implementing an organisation, a number of programs and activities for promote and protect human rights in ASEAN countries. In recent years, seeing the facilitation of optimization of work, AICHR has decided to hold 4 meetings, including 2 plenary sessions and 2 special meetings. Over the last 3 years, AICHR has organised its programs and activities on a wide range of topics related to human rights, including businesses and human rights, environment and human rights, the right to education, gender equality, the rights of persons with disabilities, freedom of religion and beliefs, children's rights, and the right to health. In addition, AICHR continues to engage with relevant institutions in the ASEAN and other stakeholders to ensure the constitution and promotion of human rights in ASEAN countries and the mainstreaming of human rights. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The Minister of Information, Kieu Kanyaret, has said that persons with disabilities are members of society who hold the same capabilities as anyone else, and the most important thing we all have to do is support and protect them. He made this statement while speaking at a press conference for the second Cambodian Voice of Persons with Disabilities program with Prime Minister's Award on Saturday, 26th of March at the Sofitel Phnom Penh. Minister Kieu Kanyaret praised persons with disabilities, saying that they are able to overcome any difficulties that they may face. He continued that the support and protection of persons with disabilities will encourage them to be comfortable and encourage their active inclusion and participation in society more strongly. The minister said, "We should not consider persons with disabilities as a burden of society. They live and work like everyone else. All we have to do is support them and make sure they have full rights." He also added that persons with disabilities are an important human resource for the development of the national economy. Currently, there are more than 500,000 persons with disabilities in Cambodia, accounting for 4.9% of the total population. The royal government is planning to hold the second Cambodian Voice of Persons with Disabilities singing contest to encourage persons with disabilities throughout the country to express their abilities and showcase their artistic talents. This program will begin in April 2022 and end in May 2023, with Phnom Penh hosting the opening program, Sihanoukville hosting the semifinals, and Siem Reap hosting the finals. 5 million doses of the COVID-19 Sinovac vaccines delivered by the government of the People's Republic of China arrived in Cambodia on Tuesday morning. This vaccine delivery was promised to Prime Minister Hun Sen by Chinese President Xi Jinping on the 18th of March 2022. EAC News reporter Srepo Kung has more details.
The plane carrying the vaccine landed at Phnom Penh International Airport at around 9:20 a.m. The Secretary of State for the Ministry of Health, Yu Sambat, said China is one of the main countries to deliver COVID-19 vaccine to Cambodia, which has helped the kingdom become one of the leading countries in vaccinating its population. The Economic and Commercial Counselor of the Chinese Embassy in Cambodia, Wu Kukwang, said China is committed to helping Cambodia survive from the threat of COVID-19. He further confirmed that in the future, China will send more COVID-19 vaccine to Cambodia. On 18 March 2022, during a telephone meeting with Prime Minister Hun Sen, Chinese President Xi Jinping confirmed to the Prime Minister that China would provide an additional 20 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines to Cambodia. As of 28 March 2022, Cambodia has vaccinated 92.59% of its 16 million people. The vaccines used in Cambodia are Sinopharm, Sinovac, AstraZeneca, Janssen, Moderna, and Pfizer. Srepo Kung, EAC News.
Sanctioned Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich and Ukrainian peace negotiators suffered symptoms of suspected poisoning earlier this month after a meeting in Kyiv. The Wall Street Journal reported on Monday, 28th of March, citing people familiar with the matter.
Abramovich, who accepted the Ukraine request to help negotiate and end the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and at least two other senior members of the Ukrainian team were affected, the WSJ report said. Their symptoms included red eyes, constant painful tearing, peeling of the skin of their faces and hands, the WSJ report added. Abramovich and the Ukrainian negotiators included Kremlin Tatar, lawmaker Rustem Umarov, have since improved and their lives are no longer in danger, WS reported. A person familiar with the matter confirmed the incident to Reuters by said Abramovich had not allowed it to stop him from working. The Kremlin has said Abramovich played an early role in the peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, but the process was now in the hands of the two sides' negotiation teams. Russian forces invaded Ukraine on February 24th in what President Vladimir Putin calls a special military operation to demilitarize and defensize Ukraine. Ukraine and the West say Putin launched an unprovoked war of aggression.
Will Smith apologized to Chris Rock on Monday, March 28th for slapping the comedian at Sunday night's Oscars ceremony on March 27th. Issuing a statement after the Film Academy said it might act against Smith for an incident that overshadowed the industry's top awards.
Smith, in a post on Instagram, said his behavior at the televised ceremony was unacceptable and inexcusable. "I would like to publicly apologize to you, Chris," Smith wrote. "I was out of line and I was wrong." Smith strode on stage and struck Rock in the face after the comedian made a joke about the appearance of Smith's wife. Less than an hour later, Smith won the Best Actor for his role as the father of tennis stars Venus and Serena Williams in King Richard. Rock, in a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, had referenced the 1997 film G.I. Jane, in which actress Demi Moore shaved her head. It was unclear whether Rock was aware that Smith's wife has a disease that causes hair loss. "Jokes at my expense are part of the job," Smith said on Monday. But a joke about Jada's medical condition was too much for me to bear, and I reacted emotionally. "I am embarrassed and my actions were not indicative of the man I want to be," he added. Earlier Monday, the 9,900-member Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences condemned Smith's actions and said it was reviewing the matter. The group's conduct policy states it is opposed to any form of abuse, harassment, or discrimination, and expects members to uphold the values of respect for human dignity, inclusion, and a supportive environment that fosters creativity. Violations may result in suspension or expulsion from the organization, revocation of Oscars, or loss of eligibility for future awards, according to the policy. Is it a real, meaningful, sincere apology? Writing on Instagram.
Prime Minister Hun Sen praised the Director General of the General Department of Taxation, Mr. Kongvit Bo, and all officials of the General Department for their excellent tax collection work in 2021, which collected more than 124.02% of the plan. He considers that this is the history of tax collection that the General Department has achieved. EAC News reporter Stay Kong has more details.
In a letter sent to the General Department of Taxation dated 24 March 2022, Prime Minister Hun Sen stated that the tax collection received in 2021 showed the leadership that adhered to principles of good governance, as well as the willingness of the leadership of the General Department of Taxation. He said that the tax collection in excess of the plan shows the strength of the economy, the strength of Cambodia's independence and sovereignty. In the letter, he wrote, "Indeed, the internal tax revenue collected by the General Department in excess of the above plan really reflect the strength of the national economy. Despite the difficult circumstances that Cambodia has been facing the COVID-19 crisis epidemic and clearly demonstrate the strength of Cambodia's independence and national sovereignty." Prime Minister announced his support for the measure taken by the General Department of Taxation to increase the efficiency and transparency of revenue collection. Tax revenue in 2021, the General Department of Taxation collected more than $2,700 million, while the financial plan for 2021 is set at more than $2,200 million. This means that the General Department of Taxation in 2021 collected more than $500 million in excess tax. Sri Pokong, EAC News.
The chairman of the Cambodian Human Rights Committee, Mr. Kai Rami, began chairing the first meeting of the ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights ICHR after becoming the new ICHR representative from 2022 to 2024. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the details.
The meeting will last for 3 days from the 30th of March to April 1st, 2022 via video conference. Sling Chenda, a member of the Cambodian Human Rights Committee and assistant of the AICHR, told reporters today's meeting is focused on the briefing on the AICHR, discuss the activities of the AICHR in the past and continue to discuss some documents that are planned to be implemented in 2022 and also discuss human rights issues in some ASEAN regions. He said, "This morning a representative of the country expressed this interest is in the Myanmar issue. At the same time, the Myanmar representative explained that it is doing something related to the promotion and protection of the human rights in Myanmar, mentioning what he strives for as providing services such as healthcare and other social assistance systems to help people." He said the reason why AICHR did not interfere in Myanmar's affairs was because of the ASEAN Charter of the AICHR Charter, which needed to be consulted of all parties to be able to negotiate. He said, "If we want to bring something to discuss, it needs to work okay from the host country. That is why we can discuss, make recommendations, give opinions or solutions, or any other country raises issues for another country to discuss, and if relevant countries agree, we can discuss." The ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission of the Human Rights, AICHR, was established on the 23rd of October 2009 at the 15th ASEAN Summit in Thailand. The establishment of the AICHR demonstrates Asian commitment to pursuing a forward-looking strategy to strengthening region cooperation on human rights. It is an integral part of the ASEAN organisational structure and a joint governing body with joint responsibility for the promotion and protection of human rights in ASEAN. The AICHR was further strengthened with the promulgation of the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration, adopted in November 2012 by the Phnom Penh Declaration of the approval of the AHRD signed by the ASEAN leaders. In 2022 is the 10th anniversary of the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration, in which the Cambodian Human Rights Commission and the new chair of AICHR will hold a celebration program aimed at informing the public and promoting its implementation to be more comprehensive. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Secretary of State of the Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth Rehabilitation and Secretary General of the Disability Action Council, Mr. Aim Chan Mekara, encouraged and supported financial training related to loans to persons with disabilities so that they have the knowledge to use loans right and does not affect their life. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more details.
Addressing the meeting between the Secretary-General of Access Disability Action Council and the Partners of Access Good Return Organisation of Chomron Microfinance on the 30th of March of 2022, Mr. M. Chan Makra said that the financial literacy training for the persons with disability is important to ensure their real growth. He said, "I'm impressed and happy to be working with our target group on the financial work, but this does not mean that they have the lend to persons with disabilities. They need to be trained if they can help train officials of Disability Action Council related to finance management before deciding to borrow money from the bank and can be build a plan to reduce debt, to do what income and what costs." Access Program Director An Rokil said that Access has developed an intervention called CAFE that provides education and training to persons with disabilities on knowledge related to loan management, how to manage and repayment. She said through this practice, most persons with disabilities have acquired knowledge and can better manage their loans. She said, speaking of CAFE, it is to increase the profit of borrower to study this course. They have to study 5 days and 6 modules so that they know how to manage time when borrowing money. The Australian-Cambodian Partnership of Sustainable and Equity Services, Access, aims to create accessible and ethical finances for persons with disability, aimed to promoting entrepreneurial activity and generating sustainable income. A report on the assessment of the need to access financial education and access finance for persons with disability in Cambodia shows that 76% of persons with disabilities do not monitor their family's finances and 50% lack confidence in their ability to save money. 80% feel that they are too stressed or severe about their family financial situation. However, 90% of persons with disabilities see that the benefits of training to help them manage their finances, while 10% say they have already received training.
Kampot Tourism Port has completed 93.41% of the construction work and is scheduled to be fully completed on the 30th of June 2022, which will be an important international tourist port for tourists who travel via the sea, especially tourists that come to Cambodia from Thailand and Vietnam. EAC News reporter Stay Kong has more.
While inspecting the progress of the construction of the International Tourist Port in Kampot Province on 29 March 2022, the Minister of Public Works and Transport Sun Chantal said that the project on building the tourist port that is located in Takchu district is built on 4 hectare size, 4.5 meter deep, 300 meter long and capable of carrying 300 to 400 passengers. The construction project is financed by the ASEAN Development Bank ADB of nearly $10 million. The port is an important international seaport for connecting tourists to the southern islands and connecting Kampot province of Cambodia to the world. Through this port, it will further promote and development of tourism and related sector in Kampot province, Boko Mountain Resort, and Cambodia's coastal destinations. In addition, the port has contributed to the development of tourism in Kampot, creating job opportunity, increasing income, and improving people's livelihoods. The port is also part of a project to develop tourism infrastructure for sustainable growth in the Greater Mekong sub-region. Srei Pokong, EAC News.
The UN food chief warned on Tuesday, 29th of March, that the war on Ukraine was threatening to devastate the World Food Programme's efforts to feed some 125 million people globally, because Ukraine had gone from the breadbasket of the world to breadlines.
At the UN Security Council, World Food Programme Executive Director David Beasley told the members that the war on Ukraine will have a global impact beyond anything that the world has ever since seen World War II. He said that 50% of the grain bought by the WFP comes from Ukraine, and now that the farmers are on the front lines, this world is devastated with the WFP operations. The crisis was compounded by a lack of fertilizing products coming from Belarus and Russia.
We were already, because of fuel prices, food pricing, shipping costs, beginning to cut rations for millions of children and families around the world in countries like, let's say, Yemen, where we had just cut 8 million people down to 50% rations, and now we're looking to go to zero rations. Niger, Mali, Chad, and I could go on and on and on. So now we're talking about a catastrophe on top of a catastrophe.
Russia's UN ambassador, Vesely Nabezia, rejected accusations that Moscow's actions in the Ukraine had caused serious turbulence in the global food market. Instead, blaming Western sanctions on Russia, Russia calls invasion of a special military operation that aims to destroy Ukraine's military infrastructure. The 193-member UN General Assembly has overwhelmingly deplored Russia's aggression and demanded it withdraws its troops. US Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman told the Council that sanctions were not fueling the global food crisis.
The responsibility for waging war on Ukraine and for the war's effects on global food security falls solely on President Putin.
The parents of 43 Ayotzinapa students who disappeared in 2014 expressed frustration and outrage on Tuesday, 29 of March, following a report that revealed that Mexico's armed forces knew that the students' teachers were being kidnapped by criminals, then hid evidence that could have helped locate them. Evidence obtained by the interdisciplinary group of independent experts, an independent panel tasked with investigating the notorious case, revealed on Monday, 28th of March, that Navy and Army officials kept secret that the students from the Ayotzinapa Rural Teachers College were under real-time surveillance by the state leading up to and during their abduction. The students were under surveillance because their college, which has strong ties to left-wing social movements in Mexico, was viewed as a potential hotbed of subversion, the GIEI said. How can we not be angry if after 3 years information is released that should have been released at the time? How can we not be mad if the investigation did not go forward for lack of information when we, the parents, asked for that information? How can we not be angry if we know nothing about our children? Said the father of missing student Cesar Gonzalez, Mario Gonzalez, during the news conference in Mexico City. Student relatives also asked Mexico's government to investigate former President Enrique Pena Nieto's involvement in the case. The kidnapping of the students on the night of September 26, 2014 in the southwestern city of Iguala sparked national and international protests and remains one of the most infamous incidents in the history of Mexico's struggle with drug gangs. The official documents reviewed by the GIEI included transcripts of conversations between soldiers and their superiors detailing the students' arrival in Iguala. From Iguala, the students had planned to travel to Mexico City to attend a protest, but were kidnapped by corrupt local police and handed over to a local gang. The students were then massacred and their bodies incinerated, according to the previous government. The GIEI later picked holes in that version of events, and the current government ordered the case to be reopened. So far, the remains of only 2 of the missing students have been definitely identified. The report did not conclude what happened to the rest of the students. Mexico's armed forces have long denied having information about the crime and the students' whereabouts. Now for a look at news-making international headlines this Monday, 28th of March.
Russian Defense Ministry has released on Saturday, March 26, a footage of what it said was the launch of Caliber cruise missiles at targets in Ukraine. The ministry has said that the missiles hit a military target in Zhytomyr region in the east of Ukraine. Residents have faced massive daily bombardment, killing civilians and leaving many without homes. In the first 2 weeks of the invasion, Russians have launched over 40 rocket and air attacks on the city of Zhytomyr itself and surrounding towns and villages. Bombings are taking a heavy toll on Zhytomyr's population. It's a logistic hub. The city, which had a population of about 280,000 before the war, is a key point in the logistical and humanitarian corridor, Zhytomyr's mayor, Serhiy Sokomly, has said. Aid from Europe is being delivered to Kiev and further east via Zhytomyr, and refugees are traveling in the opposite direction. As a result of bombing, water and gas supplies have been hit, but the mayor says local services are managing to mend a lot of the damage, ensuring most of the city has water and heat. In order to intimidate Zhytomyr, they are hitting both residential and industrial buildings, targeting infrastructure, adds the mayor.
The second box was found 1.5 meters below the ground surface, about 40 meters southeast of the main crash point around 9:20 on Sunday. The second black box was found 1.5 meters below the ground surface, about 40 meters southeast of the main crash point around 9:20 on Sunday. The black box will be sent to Beijing for decoding on Sunday afternoon. The Boeing 737 aircraft, which departed Kunming, capital of southeast China's Yanmen province, and was bound for Guangzhou, capital of Guangdong province, crashed into mountainous area of Tengxing country, Guangxi, at 14:38 Monday, March 21st. All 132 people on board the plane were dead, according to headquarters. The first black box of the plane, believed to be the cockpit voice recorder, was recovered on Wednesday, March 23rd. The data downloading and analysts work for the first black box is underway.
Dozens of female students and teachers have marched in front of the Education Ministry in Kabul on Saturday, March 26, protesting the Taliban decision to shut girls' secondary schools just hours after reopening them earlier in the week. The Taliban on Wednesday, March 23, have backtracked on their previous commitment to have high schools to girls, saying that they would remain closed until a plan was drawn up for them to reopen. The U-turn has shocked many, leaving students in tears and sparking small protests by girls in Kabul. It also drew condemnation from humanitarian agencies and foreign governments. Unfortunately, by the advent of the Taliban, all our schools were closed. We girls are allowed to study same like boys. Islam has given us this right, but the Taliban have taken this right from us, said Fatima, a student who took part in the protest. The reversal has sparked disappointment and condemnation, and on Friday, March 25, the United States has abruptly canceled meetings with the Taliban in Doha that were set to address key economic issues. The cancellation of talks was the first concrete sign that recent Taliban move on human rights and inclusivity could directly impact the international community willingness to help the group, some of whose leaders are under U.S. sanctions.
Now for a look at news making international headlines this Tuesday, 29th of March.
Pakistan's parliament took up a no-confidence motion moved by opposition lawmakers on Monday, 28 March, in a bid to remove Prime Minister Imran Khan, pushing the South Asian nation closer to political turmoil. The House will begin a debate on the motion on Thursday, 31st March, and a vote is to be held within 7 days. Opposition leader Shehbaz Sharif read from the no-confidence motion telecast live, saying, under Sub-Rule 4 of Rule 37 of the Rules of Procedure and Conduct of Business in the National Assembly 2007, I hereby seek leave of this August House to move the following resolution for a vote of no confidence against the Prime Minister. Deputy Speaker of Parliament Qasim Suri also said, 161 members are standing in favor of the motion. Therefore, permission is being granted for the vote of no confidence against the Prime Minister. Also, under Rule 37, Sub-Rule 5, debate on the motion will begin on Thursday, March 31st, 2022. The move comes as Pakistan faces a recurring economic crisis, with Khan's government banking on the International Monetary Fund to release the next tranche of a $6 billion rescue package to shore up dwindling foreign currency reserves. Khan, 69, a former captain of Pakistan's national cricket team, lost a parliamentary majority with a series of defections from his party, and a united opposition is calling on him to step down. He has vowed to fight to stay put.
60 tons of aid was delivered to the city of Kharkiv by International Committee of the Red Cross amid Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Red Cross has said it brought aid to the eastern city on the 26th of March, which included food, water and essential hygiene items. The aid was to be distributed by the Ukrainian Red Cross to the civilians, including taking shelter in the city's metro. Maximin Zabolov from the International Committee of the Red Cross says, "Today we are in Kharkiv with the ICRC team, where we distributed 60 tons of food and non-food items for the people who have suffered from the terrible consequences of the shelling on the city. This humanitarian assistance will be distributed by the Ukraine Red Cross Society. This has been put to the warehouse for further allocation to the people in need who for instance, took shelter in the metro station in Kharkiv. We hope to continue this distribution assistance through them for the benefit of the civilians who are in need of assistance from all the possible natures for the ICRC in their support them."
And drone footage of an avalanche in Alaska filmed on Sunday, 27th of March, shows its size and scope as authorities continued making risk assessments amid evacuation orders. Residents of the suburb Anchorage were ordered on Sunday to evacuate the mountainous area days after the avalanche burst a mountain road. However, an update issued later in the day by authorities reported that mitigation efforts were successful and that teams were assessing the risk involved in allowing evacuated residents to return home. The avalanche roared down a mountainside shortly before midnight local time on Thursday, 24th of March, covering the main road with a snow layer up to 80 feet deep. But local officials have said that only about half of the snow in the unstable slide zone was released then, and the chances of a secondary avalanche occurring is certain. Officials said there have been no injuries reported so far, and authorities continue to assess the extent of the damage to houses.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia.
National Assembly President Heng Samrin encouraged the new Pakistani ambassador to Cambodia to enhance cooperation and promote trade, tourism, education, and culture with Cambodia to bring benefits to both nations as well as to contribute to regional and global peace and progress. EAC News reporter Sri Kong has more details.
He made the remark while the new ambassador of Pakistan, Zahiruddin Baba Tahim, had a courtesy call this morning at the National Assembly. He said that the National Assembly of Cambodia and Pakistan have maintained good relations and cooperation with each other, especially in the field of parliamentary diplomacy, by supporting each other in regional and global interparliamentary forums. He also stated that the National Assembly of Cambodia has supported the Pakistani parliament as the vice president of the IPU and will be present at the AIPA General Assembly, which the Cambodian parliament will host at the end of 2022. The ambassador of Pakistan to Cambodia, Zahiruddin Baba Tahim, requested the president of the National Assembly to continue to have strengthened the parliamentary relation between the two countries to be stronger and more comprehensive. He stated that during this tenure as ambassador of Pakistan to Cambodia, he wanted to strengthen the relation between Cambodia and Pakistan, as the two countries have established diplomatic relations for more than 70 years. According to data from the OEC World, the trade volume between Cambodia and Pakistan in 2019 was more than $48 million, of which Cambodia exported only $1.2 million to Pakistan. Diplomatic relations between Cambodia and Pakistan began on 28 May 1952 and has lasted for 70 years. Pakistan has its embassy in Phnom Penh while Cambodia has an honorary consulate in Lahore, Pakistan. Sri Kong, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen reaffirms his candidacy for the post of Prime Minister for the upcoming 2023 election, saying that the election of Hun Manet as the future Prime Minister for the political party will be in the future. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the details.
The Prime Minister reaffirmed his candidacy at the inauguration ceremony of the Chom Chau flyover and tunnel this morning on the 31st of March 2022.
ឥឡូវហ្នឹងគណៈបកប្រជាជនជាគណៈបកសញ្ញាទេវតាអញ្ចឹងទេបន្តបោះឆ្នោតហើយខ្ញុំនៅបន្តសូមបញ្ជាក់ថាបេក្ខជននាយករដ្ឋមន្ត្រីសម្រាប់ការបោះឆ្នោតឆ្នាំ2023គឺហ៊ុនសែនទៅដែរហ៊ុនម៉ាណែតជាបេក្ខជនបន្តវេនណាតែត្រូវបានត្រៀមបំរុងទុកជារឿងធម្មតារបស់គណៈបកនយោបាយនីមួយៗគណៈបកណាគេរៀបចំអានឹងរឿងរបស់គេយើងគោរពការសម្រេចចិត្តរបស់ពួកគេប៉ុន្តែសូមឲ្យគេទទួលស្គាល់ការសម្រេចចិត្តរបស់គណៈបកប្រជាជនផងដែរព្រោះការបំរុងទុកសម្រាប់អ្នកចំនួនក្រោយគឺត្រូវតែត្រៀមរៀបចំបើមិនអញ្ចឹងវិបត្តិនឹងកើតឡើង
In 2023, Cambodia will hold the election of the 7th National Assembly, which will create a new parliament to vote and give confidence to the new government. Prime Minister Hun Sen has been the Prime Minister of Cambodia from 1985 to the present for 37 years and is one of the longest serving Prime Ministers in the world. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen of Cambodia recalled the value of peace, which provided survival, development, and prosperity, as Cambodia valued peace before democracy and human rights. The Prime Minister gave the current situation in Ukraine as example for the value of peace. EAC News reporter Sri Kong has the details.
Speaking at the inauguration ceremony of the Chom Chau flyover and tunnel this morning, 31st May 2022, Prime Minister Hun Sen said that the world is now shouting for peace and defending peace more than ever due to the effect of the Russian-Ukraine war and the potential World War III. He added that in addition to the crisis of peace, Europe is also facing the problem of displacement of refugees and racism.
បើគ្មានសន្តិភាពកុំនិយាយដល់ការអភិវឌ្ឍហើយកុំនិយាយពីលទ្ធិប្រជាធិបតេយ្យនិងសិទ្ធិមនុស្សឥឡូវសូមទៅសួរនៅអ៊ុយក្រែនតើសិទ្ធិមនុស្សនៅកន្លែងណាយើងពិនិត្យមើលបើក្របបែកក្របផ្លោកកុមារនៅក្រោមដីអត់សាលារៀនអត់ទឹកស្អាតអត់ទឹកប្រើប្រាស់ចូលមកអឺរ៉ុបត្រូវគេរើសអើងទៀតណា
Prime Minister reaffirmed that he will continue to protect the peace that Cambodia has achieved so hard for the prosperity and peace of the people. Sri Kong, EAC News.
At the inauguration ceremony of Chom Chau flyover and tunnel this morning, 31st of March 2022, the Prime Minister said that the government should have a policy regarding oil storage in case of future crisis. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
Prime Minister Hun Sen said that he wants the Ministry of Economy to be ready to have a policy to save oil, to be ready to prevent any risk arising from the oil price increase due to Russian-Ukraine war or future crisis. The war of Ukraine is now ongoing 5 weeks since Russia deployed a special operation to intensify 24th of 2022.
ឥឡូវយើងនៅតែស្តុកយុទ្ធសាស្ត្រដោយពឹងពាក់លើក្រុមហ៊ុនឯកជនដដែលក៏ប៉ុន្តែយើងត្រូវបង្កើននៅការស្តុកទុកនៅប្រេងឥន្ធនៈព្រោះឧទាហរណ៍ថាស្រាប់តែវ៉ារីអគ្គិសនីរបស់យើងឬក៏ម៉ាស៊ីនភ្លើងដើរដោយជូនថ្មរបស់យើងរត់វាមិនគ្រប់ដូចនៅឆ្នាំ2018ចឹងយើងក៏ត្រូវតែជំរុញការបញ្ឆេះម៉ាស៊ីនដែលដើរដោយប្រេងឥន្ធនៈ
The war of Ukraine is now ongoing for 5 weeks since Russia deployed a special operation to intensify of 24th of February 2022. After many negotiations, the latest negotiation in Turkey on the 29th of March yielded a positive result, and allegedly Russia is decreasing its military activities in the direction of Ukraine cities of Kyiv and Chernihiv, and to increase trust for the future negotiations. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Fans outside the Wilbur Theatre in Boston, Massachusetts were full of anticipation on Wednesday, 30th of March for comedian Chris Rock's first stand-up performance following the Oscars, where Rock was slapped on stage by actor Will Smith. Best Actor winner Smith smacked Rock in the face while he was presenting and shouted vulgarity at a comedian for making a joke about his wife's hairstyle in a shocking moment overshadowing the Oscars ceremony on Sunday, March 27th. Rock's Wednesday show is in front of a sold-out crowd, with tickets going for well over $400 following the Oscar scandal.
She had an extra ticket and she invited me, and we are going.
I love Chris Rock and I love Will Smith.
And
I love it. I've seen him twice. I've seen him twice in Philly.
And we're going to check out what he has to say about that slap on the face and see what happens.
I think he's going to take the high road, and he's really intelligent, and he's going to it's going to, I'm bummed out that Will wasn't escorted out, and I think he should say something about that.
I don't even care. If he talks about it, I don't even care. I just want to see Chris Rock. This is one of my favorite comedians of all time. I do stand up, and it makes me this dude is inspiration for me. So I'm I definitely want to see him live at least once,
Will Smith was wrong. No room for violence, no matter what his wife is going through. We can understand that, but wrong is wrong.
I'm just really curious to see how Chris is going to handle himself tonight. Is he going to do a lot of jokes about it? Is he going to just talk about it at the beginning and then go right into his other spiel? And I think the interesting thing is that this is called Death of the Ego. And one of the most interesting things is how he was so present when he did that event, when he got slapped in front of live television, that who would be that present after he gets smacked that way? So I'm just interested to see how he takes on it, whether he's going to make a funny take on it or if he's going to do it a little bit more deeper and go, talk about the ego and the issues. It does feel great to be in the present moment and just being part of the reaction, part of the story, or just at least witnessing the story. Let's just put it that way.
Peace talks between Ukraine and Russia are continuing, but for the moment, they are just words, nothing concrete. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a televised address late on Wednesday, 30th March.
Russia's invasion of its neighbour, now in its 5th week, has driven around 4 million of the Ukrainians from their homes and brought Western and Russian tensions to their worst point since the Cold War. At peace talks this week in Istanbul, Russia said it would curtain operations near Kyiv and the northern city of Chernihiv to build trust. But Ukraine and its Western allies, including the United States, dismissed Russia's pledge as a ploy to stem its losses and prepare for other attacks. Russia says its forces are regrouping to focus on liberating the breakaway eastern Donbas region. Zelensky referred to Russian troop movements away from Kyiv and Chernihiv and said that they are not withdrawn, but rather the consequence of our defenders' work. He added that Ukraine is seeing a build-up of Russian forces from new strikes on the Donbas, and we are preparing for that. Moscow has cultivated close ties with pro-Russian separatists controlling swaths of the Donbas region, which encompasses two self-proclaimed people republics that Russia is helping from free Ukraine control. Zelensky, who also spoke of his calls with the US President Joe Biden on Wednesday, where they discussed additional US aid, sanctions, and Kyiv's peace talks with Russia. The United States intends to give Ukraine $500 million in direct budgetary aid.
The King of Cambodia, His Majesty King Norodom Sihamoni, has sent a letter to the National Assembly praising the leadership of National Assembly President Heng Samrin and Prime Minister Hun Sen and saying that he is satisfied with the continuous progress Cambodia has seen so far. EAC News reporter Ashana Gojin has more details.
In the royal message delivered on the occasion of the opening of the 7th session of the 6th Legislature of the National Assembly, His Majesty King Norodom Sihamoni stated that the National Assembly, headed by President Heng Samrin, continues to perform well on its duties and establishes legislature to build state policies and laws more properly in Cambodia, which is in line with the nation's development and regional integration in the world. He said in his message, all these achievements have provided Cambodians the ability to live in peace, security, and good order, and makes the kingdom worthy of a prosperous and high profile on the international stage. His Majesty also praised the leadership of Prime Minister Hun Sen, who he said has made the right political decisions to maintain peace, social stability, and development in Cambodia, and strongly protects the national economy, prevents inflation, harmonizes all nations, and promotes the well-being of the people. The National Assembly of the Kingdom of Cambodia held its 7th session of the 6th Legislature under the chairmanship of the President of the National Assembly, Heng Samrin, on Friday morning, 1st of April. The session was attended by 93 members of the National Assembly. The 7th session of the 6th Legislature had 4 agendas, including the reading of the letter sent by His Majesty King Norodom Sihamoni, reviewing the 6th Legislature's summary report on the activities of the National Assembly between the 6th and 7th sessions, electing Mr. Oik Kim On as a new member of the Constitutional Council for a 9-year term, and discussing approving of the draft law on plant protection and phytosanitary. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
The draft law on the amendment of Article 140 to increase the Board of Governors of municipal, district, commune, province, and capital was approved by the Council of Ministers on Tuesday morning under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Hun Sen. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the details.
This amendment of Article 140 of the law on the administration of capital, province, municipality, district, and commune will increase the number of mayors in district and communes from 5 to 7 people, the number of provisional governors from 7 to 11 people, and the number of capital governors increased to 11 people. Government spokesman Phai Sipan said that increase is being made in line with the ongoing sub-national administration reforms focusing on decentralisation and deconcentration. The government is making a significant shift to providing public services and local development to lower-level administrations as part of these forms. Spokesman Phai Sipan said to improve social, economic development and the quality of life of local people, it is essential to strengthen sub-national institution and human resources to ensure that each sub-national administration has more capacity and potential to contribute to achieving the royal government's goal of transforming Cambodia into an upper-middle income country by 2030. He added that after this law passes the National Assembly and is officially announced by the King, the number of governors voted into office each capital province, municipality, district and commune will be studied and reviewed. In his closing remarks at the conclusion of the dissemination and the implementation of the national program of the Sub-National Democratic Development Phase 2 workshop on the 21st of March of 2022, Prime Minister Hun Sen stated that the development of human resources at the level of the sub-national administration is an important task of Cambodia must undertake in order to further develop and succeed in migrating various tasks. He said, while the sub-nation levels should be responsible, we see that it is lacking in strength, so we need to amend the law limiting the number of responsible people in the framework of provincial and district governors. At present, there are a total of 175 governors in 25 capitals and provinces of Cambodia. Each provincial capital has 7 governors. Additionally, there are 1,020 district governors in the 204 municipalities of Cambodia, with 5 governors in each district. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and Special Envoy of the ASEAN Chair on Myanmar, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn, met with the Special Envoy of the UN Secretary General on Myanmar, Dr. Noeleen Heyzer, to exchange views and discuss matters related to the close cooperation between ASEAN and the UN at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Thursday. During the meeting, Dr. Heyzer affirmed that the United Nations guaranteed its full support and participation on the provision of aid assistance and the establishment of a humanitarian corridor for Myanmar. EAC News reporter Sri Pokong has more.
According to a press release issued on Thursday, 31st March 2022, by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn began the discussion by briefing his interlocutor on the activities, challenges, and outcome of his meeting with relevant stakeholders during his first visit to Myanmar on 21 to 23 March 2022. He particularly stressed the three urgent priorities of making steps toward ending the violence, facilitating distribution of humanitarian assistance, and building trust and enable environment to start an inclusive and constructive dialogue among all concerned parties. In response, Dr. Heyzer acknowledged the difficulty Cambodia faces as the current ASEAN chair and further commended the effort of Prime Minister Hun Sen and Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn in paving the way for a solution to be found on the ongoing Myanmar crisis. Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn and Dr. Noeleen Heyzer also discussed the organization of the consultative meeting on humanitarian assistance and the establishment of a humanitarian corridor to ensure smooth and safe process of assistance delivery to Myanmar. In this regard, the UN Special Envoy assured the Deputy Prime Minister of the UN's full support engagement. Additionally, the two special envoys also discussed the possible role played by some countries in the region and the international community as a whole in finding a settlement to the crisis in Myanmar. This marked the second meeting between Deputy Prime Minister Prak Sokhonn and Dr. Noeleen Heyzer since 13 December 2021. Sri Pokong, EAC News.
Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces and Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Cambodian Army, Lieutenant General Hun Manait, signed a memorandum of understanding with the Commander of the Chinese People's Liberation Army Ground Force, General Li Jianli, on Thursday, 31st of March. EAC News reporter Dashana Gojin has more.
The signed MOU between Cambodia and China aims to strengthen the long-term cooperation and close relationship between the two armies on the basis of equality and mutual benefit. In a statement issued on Thursday, 31st March, the Royal Cambodian Army stated, "This document is an important step in paving the way for further cooperation in key areas. This event can be considered a turning point in the history of relations between the two armies." During the signing ceremony, Lieutenant General Hun Manait and Lieutenant General Liu Jianli expressed their pride in the friendly relations, mutual trust, mutual respect, as well as the continued close cooperation in all fields between the two countries and peoples of Cambodia and China, which brings mutual benefits, development, and common prosperity based on the comprehensive strategic partnership, the steel friendship, and community building toward a common destiny between the two countries. The two sides also stress the importance of bilateral cooperation between the two armies, which will play an important role in supporting the progress of the comprehensive strategic partnership as well as community building. Darshana Gochan, EAC News.
The Minister of Tourism, Thong Khon, has stated his expectation that there will be more tourists visiting different parts of Cambodia during the Khmer New Year, even despite the rising price of gasoline. He said that he believes many will travel during his upcoming holiday because hotel rooms and guest houses in major provinces such as Siem Reap and Sihanoukville have a lot of bookings. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
At a press conference on the 30th of March, Wednesday, Minister Thong Khon said on occasion of the upcoming Khmer New Year, there will be a tourist going to visits. Although the price of gasoline has increased, people will save by changing their consumption behaviour and by travelling in groups and reduce travel costs. In fact, as of today, there are many hotel reservations in Siem Reap, Montemakuri, and Sihanoukville and other coastal areas. The Minister hopes that the people will be happy and ready to visit different parts of Cambodia during the upcoming Khmer New Year. He also advised relevant stakeholders to prepare to receive both national and international tourists by organising entertainment venues to be safe and clean. preparing to provide a good quality of service and, most importantly, making efforts to prevent extra fees for services and food. The Director of Tourism Statistics Management Department of Ministry of Tourism, Kong Sopharek, said that the first quarter of 2022, Cambodia received a total of 151,680 international tourists, marking an increase of 114% compared to the first quarter of 2021. From this total, 86,588 arrived by air, 62,048 by land, and 2,044 by water. The director added a total of 1,181 flights arrived in Cambodia during this time, of which 1,012 landed in Phnom Penh, 144 in Siem Reap, and 55 in Sihanoukville. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Eyewitness video from Tuesday 29th of March showed people running through a building in central Mariupol as explosions sound.
Shelling began in the port city 4 weeks ago when Russia laid its siege. In the video obtained by Reuters, explosions can be heard as people run through an amusement center. Later, the video shows rubble and damage on buildings and cars. Nearly 5,000 people, including about 210 children, have been killed in Mariupol since the Russian siege, a spokesperson for Mayor Vadim Bochenko said on Monday, March 28th. His office said 90% of Mariupol's buildings had been damaged and 40% destroyed, including hospitals, schools, kindergartens, and factories. Zelensky said Ukrainian forces had pushed back the Russians from Kiev and Chernihiv, two cities Moscow had announced would no longer be the focus of attacks as they seek to secure the separatist Donbas and Luhansk regions in the southeast. There will be battles ahead. We still need to go down a very difficult path to get everything we want, he said. The situation in the south and in the Donbas remains extremely difficult.
The Chinese State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi on Thursday called for efforts to make the China-US-Russia consultation mechanism play a more effective role in the peaceful reconstruction of Afghanistan.
Wang made the remarks when meeting with special envoys and representative of Afghan issue of China, the United States, Russia and Pakistan in Tangzi, East China's Anu province. Wang noted that China, the US, Russia and Pakistan are major stakeholders in the Afghan issue, and the four countries have important influence in Afghanistan. Since major changes took place in Afghanistan, the constitution mechanism has played a constructive role in facilitating a smooth transition in the country, said Wang. Under new circumstances, the four parties need to adjust their work, support Afghanistan in the reconstruction and improving the people's livelihoods, and promote Afghanistan's responding to the expectation of internally community, especially in the fulfillment of its commitments of the completely break with, fight and sweep under the terrorist force, he said. For the next step of the mechanism's work, Wang made three suggestions. First, to enhance coordination, expand consensus, and together send out positive signals. Second is the focus on dealing with concrete issues, especially unfreezing Afghanistan's overseas assets and cancelling unreasonable sanctions on which the US should take concrete actions. Third is to make the constitution mechanism play an effective role in the peaceful reconstruction of Afghanistan and to the well-being of the people. On the same day, the meeting of the China, US, Russia, Pakistan constitution mechanism under the Afghan issues was held in Tangzhou. The Chinese side chaired the meeting.
An exhibition at the Queen's Scottish residence of Balmoral Castle showcased the monarch's dresses and miniature toy cars played in by young royals as part of the Platinum Jubilee celebrations.
The exhibition also featured a sculpture installation by artist Joseph Rosano named Salmon School, comprising of 250 suspended mirror glass shapes that appear as a school of salmon. The artwork, which aimed to raise awareness of the threat facing wild salmon from climate change, was shown in November UN Climate Change Conference COP26 event in Glasgow. The From River to the Royal exhibition will run from April 1st to August 2, 2022.
This outfit here, which was for the Diamond Jubilee, the Queen wore this when she toured around Balata. It's been designed, and the hat is designed all by Angela Kelly. I love the Queen's Day outfit here, which she wears when she's on holiday at Balmoral. Now, the tartan of the kilt is the Balmoral tartan, and that was designed by Prince Albert, and it reflects the colour of granite. Only the royals and the Queen's piper can wear the Balmoral tartan. And then this outfit here, the yellow dress, which again you'll have seen the Queen wear to Ascot, but also we have it on our biscuit tin. So we're very happy to have the yellow outfit here this year for our visitors to see. If we go further around the room, we've also got some of the sports cars that the young royals have obviously had fun in. We have a replica of an Aston Martin and an American racing car. And then we keep going round, and then we have other exhibits about court at Balmoral when the royals are here for their summer holiday.
I conceptualize the idea, and I've made a lot of the fish, but it represents a collaboration of many, many people to bring attention to what's happening with salmon, and how if we work together, we can potentially stem the tide of their extinction, if I might use the word. And the reason glass was chosen is because it's fragile, transparent, and reflective, like the resource that we're trying to create a dialogue about.
These are eggs too?
Now for a look at news-making international headlines this Wednesday, 30th of March.
An Arab gunman killed at least 5 people in a Tel Aviv suburb on Tuesday, 29 March, before he was fatally shot. The National Ambulance Service said in the third deadly attack in Israel in a week. Israel is facing a wave of moderate Arab terror. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett tweeted after the shooting in Bnei Brak, a Jewish ultra-Orthodox city on the outskirts of Israel's commercial capital. The shooting raised to 11 the number of people killed by Arab gunmen in Israel over the past week, the sharpest spike in attacks on city streets in years. Israeli media reports quoting unidentified security officials said the assailant was a Palestinian from a village near the city of Jenin in the occupied West Bank. The Morgan David Adom Ambulance Service said he shot dead 5 people.
The recaptured town of Irpin near Ukraine's capital Kiev was an eerie wasteland of burnt-out homes on Tuesday the 29th of March. The devastation of the town tested to the horrors of the frightening and bombardment there. Bodies of dead civilians lay scattered on the streets as the stray dogs roamed between fallen trees and debris. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and Irpin's mayor on Monday the 28th of March said the town had been retaken by Ukraine forces. At peace talks in Turkey on Tuesday, Russia promised to scale down military operations around Ukraine's capital and north. Russia's invasion has been halted on most fronts by stiff resistance from the Ukraine forces, who have recaptured territory even as civilians are trapped beside cities. More than a month since the invasion began, the defense of Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, has played out of heavy clashes in places like Irpin and northwest of Kyiv. When the histories are written, towns and villages like it may be minor details, but they are where the Russians advance and has been halted, sometimes by small mobile Ukrainian units wielding an anti-tank weapons shipped from abroad. Russia describes its actions in Ukraine as a special operation with an aim of demilitarizing its neighbor. It has denied targeting civilians.
And Haitian demonstrators took to the streets of Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, on Tuesday, March 29, to demand an end to the rising insecurity that has hit the Caribbean island in recent months. Protesters marched against kidnapping, murder, and rape, which they say is happening daily with impunity. Demonstrators blocked streets and set fire to barricades to demand Prime Minister Ariel Henry's government to do more to address a crime wave. The rally in Port-au-Prince coincided with the 35th anniversary of the signing of the country's constitution. Now for a look at news-making international headlines this Thursday, 31st of March.
Fields, homes, well, and even tombs were gradually being buried under shifting sands dune in this windswept stretch of Madagascar's southern coastline until the local community fought back, aimed only with plants and elbow grease. According to the community, this dune plays a negative role when it comes to the protection of cultural spaces. First of all, the tombs. Some tombs were buried in the sand, The community is very intact to their custom, especially the places where they put ancestors to rest. So it's really very important for the community. They also spoke of the dunes being agricultural field, said Theodore Bynasums, the World Food Program WFP chief in the region. After years of painstaking planting by hundreds of local volunteers, 36 hectares of dune have been stabilized by long lines of plants that trap moisture in the ground and stop the relentless wind from blowing all the sand further inland. The buildup of sand dunes started becoming a problem in the area roughly a decade ago due to the drought and an increasing in strong winds, partly linked to the El Niño climate pattern, and climate scientists warn things will only get worse. Madagascar, an island with a population of 30 million and great natural variability in these weather patterns, faces increased aridity and more frequent droughts and extreme weather even in the future, according to the UN expert climate panel.
Dozens of Bavarian domestic workers protested on Wednesday in a downtown Lima to demand respect for their labour rights and denounce the absence of discriminations they face, which they say have worsened during the pandemic. Domestic workers do cleaning, laundry, cooking, watching the kids or more around the house. There are two types of domestic workers, those who live in your house and those who only come to work and then leave. A very low percentage of total domestic workers are registered with contracts. Rest time, vacations and public holidays are also harder to implement, especially when the workers live in the house. During the coronavirus pandemic, people were asked to stay at home and help curb the spread. Unfortunately, this transfers the burden of domestic workers even more.
COVID-19 patients in Shanghai were being treated in a makeshift hospital that was converted from an exhibition center, according to state television CCTV on Wednesday, March 30th. The China's financial hub, home to 26 million people, is in its third day of a lockdown that authorities are imposing by dividing the city roughly along the Huangpu River, splitting the historic center from the eastern financial and industrial district of Pudong to allow for staggered testing. While residents in the east have been locked down since Monday, March 26, those in the west were officially scheduled to start their 4-day lockdown on Friday, April 1st. The city reported a record of 5,656 asymptomatic COVID-19 cases and 326 symptomatic cases on Tuesday, March 29th, up from 4,381 new asymptomatic cases and 96 new cases with symptoms on the prior day. Now for a look at news making international headlines this Friday, 1st of April. Will retire from his acting career after being diagnosed with aphasia, a disease that is impacting his cognitive abilities, his family said in the statement on Wednesday, March 30th. 67-year-old Willis achieved initial fame for his role in the 1980s comedy drama TV series Moonlighting before becoming most well-known as the tough guy action hero who shouted "Yippee-ki-yay" in 5 Die Hard films. The actor has appeared in around 100 films across his 4-decade career, winning acclaim for roles in Pulp Fiction and The Sixth Sense. Willis has won 1 Golden Globe Award and 2 Emmys. His family said in their statement that this is a really challenging time for them and they will move forward as a strong family unit. They also thanked fans for the love, compassion, and support Willis continues to receive. Aphasia is a condition that affects one's ability to comprehend or formulate language due to damage in specific regions of the brain. This includes the ability to speak, write, and effectively communicate with others. Aphasia can occur following strokes or head injuries, but can also arise over time due to brain tumors or degenerative diseases. Willis had been especially active in recent years, appearing in 8 movies released in 2021 alone. The satirical Razzie Film Award gave Willis his own special category this year, nominating him 8 times for Worst Performance by Bruce Willis in a 2021 movie. The Razzie Awards tweeted an apology on Wednesday after hearing about his diagnosis. In 2006, Willis received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a Los Angeles landmark honoring legends of film, television, and music.
Police in Sri Lanka's capital, Colombo, clashed with hundreds of protesters on Thursday, the 31st of March, as public anger escalated against the government's handling of the worsening economic crisis. Some protesters set fire to a bus in the first escalations of violence in Colombo since the economic crisis took hold in recent months. Another bout of violence broke out during a protest near the private residence of Sri Lankan's president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, which injured 2 journalists and 4 police officers. Sri Lanka is turning off streetlights to save electricity, a minister said on Thursday, as its worst economic crisis in decades brought more power cuts and halted trading in its main stock market. The island of 22 million people has been struggling with rolling blackouts for up to 13 hours a day because of the government states it does not have enough foreign exchange for fuel imports. The power cuts added to the pain of Sri Lankans already dealing with shortages of essentials and rocketing prices. Retail inflation hit 18.7% and food inflation reached 30.2%. A diesel shipment under $500 million credit line from India is expected to arrive on Saturday the 2nd of April. Water levels at reservoirs feeding hydroelectric projects have fallen to record lows, while the demand hit record highs during the hot, dry season. The Colombo Stock Exchange cut daily tradings for 2 hours from the usual 4.5 hours because of power cuts during the rest of the week. But shares slid after the market opened on Thursday and the CSE halted trading for 30 minutes. The third time in 2 days after index tracking, leading companies dropped by more than 5%. The crisis is a result of badly timed tax cuts and impact of the coronavirus pandemic, coupled with historically weak government finances, leading to foreign exchange reserves dropping by 70% in the last 2 years. Sri Lanka was left with reserves of $2.31 billion as from February, forcing the government to seek help from International Monetary Fund and other countries, including India and China.
Taiwan's longest-running traditional puppet television show is creating non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, to help bring their art form to a new modern audience and generate a fresh income stream. NFTs are crypto assets representing a digital item such as an image, video, or even land in virtual world that exists on the blockchain and carry unique digital signature that cannot be reproduced. The prices of some have risen so fast over the last year that speculators around the world sometimes flip them with a day for a profit. Pili International Multimedia, which make film with puppet as its studio in central Taiwan, Yunlin County, says it wants to be a pioneer in using NFTs as another source of revenue. Seka Horn, the studio brand manager, said that the online world is developing so fast that they need to catch up by jumping straight in to fully understand. Pili has thousands of glove puppet characters, a traditional part of Taiwanese street entertainment culture, spinning colorful and highly stylish stories of heroic courage and romance, often with martial art. The puppets are painstakingly created and expertly maneuvered during the filming of the show, with costumes that are sewn on strands of hair meticulously put in place. Pili said 4 of the puppet characters were made into digital version and more than 30,000 of these have been sold as NFTs since their listing in early February. The company declined to reveal the profit sharing with the market platform but said each NFT cost $40, translating to generated revenue of at least $1.2 million. Who said the initial listing had sold out seconds after launching on Vivi, is now working on transforming up to 50 other puppet characters into NFTs in the next 2 years, potentially another $1 million revenue stream for the studio.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia.
Canada qualified for the World Cup finals for just the second time on Sunday, beating Jamaica 4-0 to book their ticket to quarter and end 36 years of failure and heartache.
While Canada celebrated, Mexico and the United States will have to wait to learn their fate despite picking up wins along Costa Rica, who's most kept their Qatar hopes alive. The United States got a hat-trick from Chelsea midfielder Christian Pulisic as romped in a 5-1 win over Panama, while Mexico needed a 70th minute goal from Edson Alvarez to win a 1-0 and avoid humiliating draw and winless with Honduras. The victory for Canada puts the leaders on a 28-point in CONCACAF qualifying group, 3 points ahead of the United States and Mexico. The Costa Rica, who beat El Salvador 2-1 and a further 3 points back. To top the three teams in automatic places in November's World Cup, with the fourth place finisher facing the Oceania team in the Intercontinental playoff for another berth. Mexico will host El Salvador on Wednesday, the United States San Jose to take the Costa Rica, and Canada to wrap up their campaign against Panama. Both Mexico and the United States require only a draw to seal an automatic berth. After failing to clinch a final spot for a 1-0 away to Costa Rica on Thursday, Canada returned home with renewed purpose and a chance to complete the job in front of a frenzied, red-clad, flag-waving, sold-out crowd of nearly 30,000 at BMO Field. "I'm just so pleased we didn't win in Costa Rica," said coach John Herdman. "This is how it was meant to be. I know why the football gods wouldn't let us score. It was for tonight. We just qualified for the World Cup. This is legit football country. There will be no blown second opportunity as Kyle Laren and Tanjan Banchan netted the first half, and Junior Holliott added the first half to break, with Adrian Maparas' own goal rounding off the scoring. Canada will play at the first World Cup for the first time since 1986 in Mexico, where they lost 3 games and failed to score a goal. "I think this country never believed in us because we're giving them nothing to believe in," said Hedman. "They believe now. This is the time for everyone to get behind football and unite because we can be a powerhouse. It is warm welcome home on a cold afternoon, making a classic Canadian stage to take out the Jamaican side, anchored near the bottom of the 8-team group in 7th, with 1 win and no hope of getting to Qatar. There was a time during their 36th quest to return to the World Cup final that playing at home was no different than away from Canada, with as many fans supporting the visitors as the home side. But there was no split allegiances on Sunday in a lopsided contest. Canada dominated from the start to finish.
Formula's One Saudi Arabia Grand Prix will go ahead after teams received safety assurances and drivers met for more than 4 hours following attacks on an oil facility near the Jeddah Street Circuit on Friday.
Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis said they launched attacks on Saudi energy facilities, and the Saudi-led coalition said state-owned oil giant Aramco's petroleum products distribution station was hit, causing a fire in 2 tanks but no casualties. "We have received total assurance that the country's safety is first," Formula One Chief Executive Stefano Domenicali told reporters after a meeting with drivers, teams, and local authorities. He said senior Saudi figures were also at the track with their families, so they have in place all the systems to protect this area, the city, the places where we are going. So we feel confident and we have to trust the local authority in that respect, added the Italian. The president of the sports governing FIA, Mohammed Ben Solayem, is speaking alongside Domenicali, said the attacks had targeted economic infrastructure and not civilians. We have the assurance from a high level that this is a secure place. The whole thing will be secure, and let's go on racing, he said. The first indication of the attack came when a huge plume of black smoke rose over Jeddah to the east of the track as cars went around the street circuit during Friday's first practice, which went ahead as planned. A subsequent qualifying sessions for feeder series Formula 2 also went ahead on schedule, but the start of the second session of F1 practice was delayed by 15 minutes as teams and drivers were called in to meet with Dominicali. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff said teams had unanimously agreed that the race should go ahead. Red Bull boss Christian Horner said the sport had to stand together. Any act of terrorism cannot be condoned, the Briton told Sky Sports F1. The sport shouldn't be bullied into opposition in a situation like that, just isn't acceptable. The drivers' meeting at the track ended at around 2:30 local time on Saturday, with Mercedes George Russell then heading to race control. We'll be racing, Horner assured reporters. The Iran-aligned Houthi movement has been battling a coalition led by Saudi Arabia for 7 years. The group had fired missiles and drones at Saudi energy and water desalination facilities last Sunday, the energy ministry and state media said. In December, an explosion went off under a French vehicle involved in the Dakar rally in Saudi Arabia. French prosecutors have opened an investigation into the incident in February that investigators had found traces of explosives in the wrecked vehicle. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry said that an initial investigation into the blast had not raised any criminal suspicions.
Formula One champion Max Verstappen swept past Ferrari rival Charles Leclerc 4 laps from the finish to take his first win of the season at Sunday's March 27th Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
The Dutchman, who had started fourth, crossed the line just half a second ahead of Leclerc, who kept the championship lead, having led a Ferrari 1-2 in last week's season opener in Bahrain. Spaniard Carlos Sainz was third for the Italian team. The win was 21st of Verstappen's career and handed him his first point of the year after Red Bull Duval retirement in the Bahrain GP.
It wasn't easy playing smart tricks in the last corner, but eventually managed to get ahead. But then even after that, he was constantly in the DRS, and then with the yellow flags in the last lap, just knowing how much you should lift, what is allowed and not, it was tough, but really happy that we finally kick-started the season.
I mean, we had two very different configurations with Max and Checo and both the Ferraris. We were quite quick in the corners, but quite slow in the straight because we put more downforce, and so it was extremely difficult for me to cover Max in the straights, but it's like this. He did a great job, and it was a fun race.
Yeah, for me this race was a bit of progress from Bahrain. I think I managed to find a bit more rhythm with the car. Still some tenths to find, but I think I will end up getting there.
His teammate Sergio Perez, who finished fourth, was unable to convert his first career pole into victory after the Mexican strategy was undone by the safety car. George Russell took fifth for struggling Mercedes ahead of Alpine Esteban Ocon, who edged McLaren Lando Norris to sixth by just 0.1 seconds. Lewis Hamilton, the winner of last year's inaugural Saudi race, recovered to claim the final point in 10th after starting 15th.
Kenya's Maxine Wahome emerged victorious as the winner of the first ever all-women's rally competition held in the East African country.
Dubbed the Lioness Rally, the race was held on Sunday the 27th of March and attracted 8 teams, all made of female race drivers. With veteran driver Safina Khan on navigation, 27-year-old Wahome finished the 12-kilometre race circuit in a Subaru Impanza, beating runner-up Tash Tundo by 13 seconds. Motorsports are still predominantly male-dominated, but rally driver and clerk of the Lioness Rally Joan Nesbitt hopes an inaugural race will go a long way in challenging stereotypes of women participation in the sport.
If we have more rallies like this, we can get to having a WRC of only women, but it takes a while. So hopefully we can have a big Kenyan one. Let's see where we can go from there. But it's at least now you can see people are more interested. There's a lot of spectators, more than we've had even in the Kenya National. So with the ladies in the sport, I guess people are interested in ladies, so they want to see the action. Yeah.
encourage and I'd like to see more women coming and joining. As they've seen now, it's not that hard. Everybody thought it was a big deal, but it's actually not that hard.
I think an event like this is so important because I'm sure there are some women who are shy in joining and they're not sure whether they will be able to find a car or be able to just, be part of it. And seeing that they are first timers here and they were able to join and they did their best, which I think it just inspires women to come out of their shell.
Given the strong turnout and spectators, organisers of the rally hope that this inaugural race will drum up interest and support for more women to join motorsports.
Portugal's Bruno Fernandes scored a clinical double as his side beat stubborn visitors North Macedonia 2-0 to qualify for the World Cup finals in Qatar after a tense European playoff tie on Tuesday, March 29.
Roared on by 50,000 fans at a sold-out Dragão Stadium in Porto, Portugal dominated the game from the start, but struggled to break down the strong North Macedonian defence, managing only 3 shots on target despite having almost 70% of the possession. Fernandes opened the scoring 30 minutes into the first half after intercepting a pass by his best friend, North Macedonian captain Stefan Witowski, worked a great 1-2 with Cristiano Ronaldo before whipping the shot past the goalkeeper. The 27-year-old attacking midfielder sealed Portugal's win in the 65th minute, striking home a volley from Diogo Jota cross. Fernando Santos' team then ran down the clock, celebrating the final whistle with their joyful fans that remained in their stands for almost 15 minutes after the game, singing as the players completed a victory lap holding a huge Portuguese flag. Portugal coach Fernando Santos said, "We've already proved that we could win 2 very important competitions. Obviously, we know that the World Cup takes place in November. There will be a great squads in competition. But, like always, Portugal will be the candidate too. And that's what we will try to do, is win. Naturally, knowing that we are a squad of great quality." I always tell my players a very simple thing. When our team at least equals opponent, then the quality of talent of our players. And we have players of enormous quality. The quality of talent of these players have a tendency to win the match. When we only have the talent, but we lack our organisation, we have difficulties, of course. Portugal, who won the 2016 European Championship in France and the 2019 UEFA Nations League at home, qualified for the 6 straight World Cup finals and have not missed a major international competition in the last 20 years. I have already won 2 competitions. I hope I can win the 3rd one in Qatar, Coach Santos told the conference. Portugal was pushed into the playoffs after finishing 2nd in Group A, having lost their final game at home in Serbia 2-1 in November 2021. That had left them needing to win 2 consecutive elimination games to qualify, with last week's win over Turkey, where they survived a drama setting and a decider against North Macedonia, who has stunned Italy with their opening match. It was a nervous occasion of Porto in Tuesday, but Portugal dominated and avoided any surprises from the underdogs who did not have a shot on target.
Rajid El Morabiti won the opening stage of the Marathon des Sables on Sunday, March 27th, as the 36th edition of the race got underway in the Sahara Desert.
El Morabiti, who bagged his 8th title last year, is to victory in the 30.3-kilometer stage ahead of fellow Moroccan Aziz Diacho, while his brother Mohamed finished 3rd. In the women's race, debutant Ana Comet of Spain and French Sylvain Cassot came 1st and 2nd respectively, while defending champion Aziza Raji completed the podium. Monday's 2nd stage takes the run along a 38.5-kilometer route.
Daniil Medvedev is 1 win away from retaking the world's #1 spot after moving past American Jensen Brooksby 7-5, 6-1 and into the Miami Open quarterfinals on Tuesday, 29th of March.
The US Open champion lost his serve in the first game but found momentum after fending off 2 more breakpoints in the 5th, winning the final 4 games of the first set in which he fired down 6 aces. The Russian ripped through the 2nd set in less than half an hour, dropping 1 first serve point. The intensity will surely be high in his Master 1000 quarterfinal. If the Russian can beat his next opponent, Poland's Hubert Hurkacz will replace Novak Djokovic at the top of the rankings. Meanwhile, Australian wildcard Nick Kyrgios lost to Italy Netherlands Jannik Sinner 7-6-3, 6-3 after a dispute with the chair umpire. Kyrgios received a point penalty for bad behavior in the first set tie-break, and in between sets angrily and repeatedly asked the chair umpire what is unsportsmanlike before walking to his bench and whacking his racket against the court. The gesture earned him a game penalty, allowing Sinner to open a second set up a break. Sinner next faces Argentina Francisco Cerundolo.
Australians remembered late cricket icon Shane Warne in a televised memorial service at his home stadium, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, on Wednesday 30th of March, with nearly 50,000 people attending.
The memorial started with those gathered calling out "Warnie, Warnie" as cricketer Don Bradman's granddaughter and soprano Great Bradman sung the Australian national anthem. Warnie's father and children made heartfelt tributes, as other cricketing legends remembered Warne as a genius, entertainer and king.
His generosity and loyalty, which knew no bounds, and the joy he brought to so many people along the way that will forever bring us comfort. In Shane's typical humble manner, Shane, the Aussie boy from Black Rock, said of himself, "I smoked, I drank, and I played a little cricket." Mate, your mother and I cannot imagine a life without you. You've been taken too soon and our hearts are broken. Thank you for all you did for us and for being such a loving and caring son. Rest in peace, mate. Love you, Mum and Dad.
Genius. I'd say genuine.
Bogan. Dead set Bogan.
Dead set Bogan. That's 2 or 3 words, but I like it.
Well, he nicked genius. I'll go entertainer. He entertained us.
Definitely say the king.
The bonds created through sport last a lifetime. The bond of brothers lasts a lifetime. I'm very fortunate to have shared both of these bonds with him. Whilst we'll all have to learn to live without Shane in our lives, he'll leave a massive hole in mine that will never be filled. I'll always love him and always miss my big brother. Rest in peace, mate.
I never thought one's voice could bring such comfort until I can no longer hear it. I've had to come to terms with the fact that you won't be able to walk down the aisle on my special day and be by my side. You're not going to meet your grandchildren you are going to have one day, but instead you're going to be someone that I tell my kids to about, and how much of an amazing father you were to me and will always be in my heart. How good of a grandpa you would have made, and how they would have loved and adored you just like I do. You lived 100 lives, Dad. You never took anything for granted, and you made sure that you lived every day to the absolute fullest.
Although I didn't go down the cricket path, you didn't mind. You just wanted the best for me. You taught me manners are free and to always say please and thank you.
Dad was our shining star in life, and now he's shining down on all of us. We will do you so proud, Dad, and we are so proud of everything you have achieved. We are going to do what you always told us, try our best, and we will try our best to live in a world without you.
Have achieved, we are going to do what we always told us, try our best, and we will try our best to live in a world without you. Many were seated in the Southern Grandstand, which was renamed as the Shane Warne Stand, unveiled by his 3 children in the wake of his death at age 52.
Formula One will light up Las Vegas on a Saturday night in November 2023 as the streets of Sin City are taken over by the fastest cars and most famous drivers in the world, officials said on Wednesday 30th of March.
The Las Vegas Grand Prix 6.12-kilometer track will see drivers roar past landmarks such as the Bellagio Fountains and Caesar's Palace. This is an incredible moment for Formula One that demonstrates the huge appeal and growth of our sport with the 3rd race in the United States, said Stefano Domenicali, president and CEO of Formula One. Las Vegas is a destination known around the world for its excitement, hospitality, thrills, and of course, the famous Strip. There is no better place for the Formula One to race than in the global entertainment capital of the world, and we cannot wait to be here next year. The sport previously struggled to make inroads in the country, particularly after an infamous six-car race at Indianapolis in 2005 left huge reputational damage. But its popularity has been surging in the United States, which this year will host the Miami Grand Prix in May and the United States Grand Prix in Austin in October. The popular Netflix doc-series Drive to Survive has also turbocharged interest. Next year's race marks the return of Formula One to Las Vegas, which was the site of the Caesars Palace Grand Prix in the early 1980s.
Look this iconic backdrop, and there is nowhere better for Formula One to be here. It's impressive. And in November 2023, the best racing on the planet will be on the street of Las Vegas under these lights. It'll be amazing. For us, this is a perfect partnership, I have to say. The excitement and the intensity of Formula One in this entertainment capital of the world. Well, they can expect a great moment for the sport, for Formula One, a great excitement, incredible place to be. If you look behind, to see all the F1 Las Vegas 2023 logo on the strip is something unique. We are very proud of it. We want to thank the community because when we are coming in such a place, with so many things happening, you never know. But we do believe that we're going to be here doing something spectacular, where the fans will love to come, and we are looking forward to see that very soon, because we're talking about November 2023. It seems very far, but it's not. Well, the perfect marriage is because we are in an iconic city. You see the layout, the context here is amazing. We're going to have the right atmosphere, the right intensity, the right passion, and that's the reason why we feel really at home already here today. In life, never say never, because if you think where we were in US just a couple of years ago, it was difficult to have one race full of people. Now we are having already two fully booked. Actually, we could do the double and it will be full. So I think that for sure, for the short term, that will be definitely the best solution.
I am laser focused, that's my job, on our economy as governor, and we know the economic impact that Formula One is going to have on this community is enormous. We are anticipating 170,000 visitors to town to watch this race. They will accommodate 400,000 room nights, which is absolutely amazing. And the direct economic impact is approaching $500 million, and the indirect impact will be over $1 billion by the time we're done. We could not be more proud. The opportunity to host the Formula One race is something, and I predict that this will be the iconic race, the flagship race of F1 within a couple of years. That's how well this is going to be received.
The excitement is building up, so it's difficult to say that today. We will discuss in the next couple of months, but for sure, with this level of competition, with the levels of attention, the problem is not the number of races, it's to make sure that each of them represent really a unique events where people can have really fun and enjoy.
Russian soccer authorities are serious about a bid to host the European Championship in 2028 or 2032, while its national and club teams are being unfairly punished because they have done nothing wrong, a senior official said on Thursday, 31st March.
Alexei Sorkin was the CEO of 2018 World Cup in Russia and former member of FIFA's ruling council, said that his country has everything in place to host the tournament. Russian clubs and national teams have been suspended from FIFA and UEFA competition due to the war in Ukraine, which denied Russia the chance to qualify for this year's World Cup finals through the European playoffs. The Russian Football Union has appealed the suspension to the Court of Arbitration for Sports in Lausanne. But Sorkin said that the state of affairs does not mean Russia cannot bid for hold future tournaments. European soccer governing body UEFA have opened the bidding process for both Euro 2028 and 2032, and Russia has yet state which edition it will focus its bid upon. The United Kingdom, nations and Ireland have made a declaration of interest to host the 2028 competition along with Turkey and Russia. Italy, along with Turkey and Russia, has said it was intended to bid for 2032. Sorkin told reporters that it was a long time until 2032, indicating a bid was more likely to be for that tournament, but said that there was still time to select which year to focus on.
What does Russian football have to do with
with all this. So what has Russian football done wrong? I don't find any clause in FIFA statutes that were broken by the Russian football. What's happening is received with disappointment by Russian fans that the European event has been taken away, that the team is not playing. That's very disappointing for Russian fans. Of course, they're emotional about this. It's very sad for us to see refusals of other players of other teams to play with our team. We could understand. I think, again, as my own personal opinion, we could understand the removal to another neutral territory, which is done, but to simply take away a team. But again, that's my personal opinion. But again, we're talking to the wrong person. We are football organizers. We do not engage in political debates or the reasons of why certain things are happening. Our world is not perfect. All we're saying is that football teams and football lovers should not be punished for that, no matter what country they represent. I've known him for a very long time. We regret that he has these emotions, but it is difficult for them. I understand that. But it must be difficult for them. But again, I'm here not to discuss politics and not to discuss military activities or anything. We're here at the FIFA Congress. Well, if we remember the bid for the World Cup, initially it started as dual bid for almost every country, and then the countries kind of naturally focused on the year that is more preferable to them. But initially everybody bid for everything, and I think we could suspect that this is the process that we're looking at, where the countries have submitted, and then there will be more clarity on who is focusing more on which year. The process will bring more clarity on the way. That's what I believe. We were preparing for the Champions League final, and it was taken away. Again, we deeply regret that. There is a whole team of my colleagues who have spent 3 years of their time preparing the best Champions League final. They can do that no more. We have emotions also, just like any other people have their emotions.
Sorokin told reporters that it was a long time until 2032, indicating a bid was more likely for the tournament, but said there was still time to select which year to focus on. The countries have submitted the bids, and then we will have more clarity on who will be focusing more on which year. The process will be more clarity on the way, that's what I believe, he said. Ukraine football officials were not able to attend the FIFA Congress, but delegates were shown an emotional video message from Ukraine FA President Oldery Pavlenko, who was filmed wearing a bulletproof jacket. I have known him for a very long time. We regret that he has these emotions, said Sokrin. But it's difficult, I understand that. It must be difficult for them, but again, I'm here not to discuss politics or military activities or anything. I'm here for FIFA Congress, he added. Ukraine was represented by the ambassador of Qatar, Andriy Kazamenko, who repeated a call from Russia's soccer authorities to be removed from FIFA. But Sokrin said that football bodies should not be held responsible for expressing disappointment that the host of this year's Champions League final had been taken away from St. Petersburg. What does Russia football have to do with all this? What has Russia done wrong? I don't find any clause in the FIFA status that we were broken by the Russian football. What's happening is received with disappointment by Russian fans, and the Europeans event has been taken away, he said.
Coda is a feel-good dramedy about the only hearing member of a deaf family pursuing music, an activity that the rest of the family cannot appreciate. The film makes history as the first motion picture featuring a predominantly deaf cast in its leading roles, first film from the Sundance Film Festival, and the first film distributed by a streaming service to win Best Picture at the 94th Academy Awards held on Sunday, 27th of March.
The film won all 3 awards it was nominated for in the categories of Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Supporting Actor, and Best Picture. Troy Kotsur is the first deaf man and the second deaf actor to win an acting Oscar. His co-star Marlene Matlin was the first deaf actor to win the award in 1986 for the film Children of a Lesser God. CODA, which stands for Child of Deaf Adults, is an English remake of the 2014 French film La Famille Bélier. This win also signified the first Best Picture Oscar win for a streaming service, with Apple TV Plus beating out Netflix's The Power of the Dog, which was a top contender this year with a leading 12 nominations, of which it won one, with Jane Campion snagging the award for Best Director. CODA director Shian Heder has described how she fought with studios and financiers who wanted hearing actors to portray the rest of the deaf family after Matlin signed on to the film. However, Matlin put her foot down and said that it was important to cast real deaf actors portraying the deaf family members to show the world what deaf people are like day to day.
I really want to thank the Academy for recognizing a movie of love and family on this difficult time that we need today, and this is CODA.
June won the most awards of the night, winning in 6 categories, including Best Cinematography, Editing, and Original Score. And other major awards were given to Jessica Chastain for Best Actress, Will Smith for Best Actor, Ariana DeBose for Best Supporting Actress, Kenneth Branagh's Belfast for Best Original Screenplay, and Ryusuke Hamaguchi's Drive My Car for Best International Feature Film.
With the rising price of gasoline after 2 years of the coronavirus pandemic, it's easy to see the toll on the general public, especially on those whose livelihood revolves around transportation. At the Electric Vehicle Showcase and Inauguration Ceremony of EV charging stations on the morning of 26th of March 2022 at the Ministry of Public Works and Transport, Minister of Public Works and Transport Senior Minister Sun Chantol said that the growth of EV in Cambodia will contribute to the path of carbon neutrality by 2050. Mr. Red is one of many motor taxi drivers in Cambodia who has been struggling financially due to the rising price of gasoline.
Presently, motor taxi has many problems because of the rising price of gasoline. Before, I used to get 5,000 to 6,000 real for a short distance and earn a little bit of money. With the rising price of gasoline, there's no profits. Before, I used to earn 30,000 reals a day. Now it's hard to do.
The government is aware of the issues inflicted on the people as well as fighting the climate crisis, and thus the electric vehicle showcase from 9 brands include BYD Cambodia, Car4U, Hongyi, Oyika, Onion Mobility, Jaguar, Komin Khmer, Miku, and Voltra. Senior Minister Sun Chantol was surprised to see the variations of electric motorcycles and car brands in Cambodia, including Onion Mobility tuk-tuk or 3-wheeler, which are built in Cambodia.
The Ministry of Public and Transport is committed to lead, to assist, to cooperate with various government agencies and the private sector to push the EV in order to contribute to the reduction of CO2 in the environment, to ensure that we will meet our objective to have the carbon neutrality by 2050.
UNDP has provided 4 fast charging stations to encourage the use of EV. One has been placed at the Ministry of Public Works and Transport. They will also place one at each of the following provinces: Siem Reap, Battambang, and Sihanoukville. With the participation from Total, Katek, PTT so far and the rest to follow, some gasoline stations have pledged to put their own fast charging stations in important areas. Representative of UNDP Cambodia, Alisa Shakir, has added that with the recent grant from Japan, they are able to help support access to energy for people who are not on the grid and work on energy efficiency in buildings, to cut down on wastage and to use the energy efficiently in a more meaningful way. Thus, she was happy to support e-mobility in Cambodia. She is working with the government to create more shares of renewable energy onto the grid. She also believes that with the focus on renewable energy, Cambodia will be able to create a whole new workforce market, which will be important for the future economic development of Cambodia.
This shift or this energy transition, whether in normal energy settings, but also in the e-mobility, would need new expertise. They need new markets. They need new products. And for this, we need really, to invest in developing the skills and expertise, the Cambodian skills and expertise, but also to put the right laws so that the right energy transition happens in Cambodia, cutting down on other types of pollutions, that might also affect the environment. And of course, increase as much as possible more the renewable energy in the grid and use solar energy so that we can be efficient and we cut down on the emissions and reach by, the carbon neutrality as soon as possible.
Chun Von, Director General of the General Department of Land Transport, agreed that EV is the future. It will help create more jobs. With new technology, it will help develop human resources with the latest technology while cutting down on pollution with the rest of the world. The ministry is aware of the increase of electricity usage and how Cambodia has dealt with electric shortage before. The ministry is working with EDC.
Regarding the energy source, we have talked with the Ministry of EDC. With EV, we will have to use a lot of electricity, but we will cooperate together to provide enough electricity for the EVs and the EDC, working on the energy source and clean energy as well, so that it won't harm the environment.
In addition to saving money on pricey gasoline, electric vehicles have been especially helpful for Thon Kum San and Min Van Na. Thon Kum San said that it has been easy to use his e-bike to sell. He only needs to use his hand to move around. It's especially helpful for him to go up and down the hills without much effort. For Min Van Na, as a kid, e-bike is lighter and safer as it doesn't drive fast. And finally, with neon lights running along the wall, pulsating electronic beats, and a glowing red shuttlecock bouncing back and forth, one could have easily mistaken this sports venue for the set of a sci-fi film. Shuttle in the Dark, located at a fitness center inside the iconic Petronas Twin Towers in Kuala Lumpur, offers players a chance to play badminton in a futuristic space-like environment with a court that glows in the dark with accompanying luminescent equipment like rackets, clothes, and shuttlecocks. Yan Mei, a professional badminton player, finds the new setting exciting and requires more focus.
The lightning, somehow we are still able to hit it, and then it requires better focus, and it's exciting. Yeah, it's different, but it's still playing like normal.
Shuttle in the Dark was initially set up in December 2021 and was the brainchild of a sports management company, which was trying to encourage more people to take up the sport after 2 years of social restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Our initial goal was, how can we encourage and gain back the interest of people to come back and play? And not only those enthusiasts, but then as well the new people who was not able to or never play badminton before.
Badminton is one of Malaysia's most popular sports, with a thriving community in a Southeast Asian country which has produced some of the world's top-ranked players. Open to athletes of all levels of the game, Shuttle in the Dark charges 180 ringgit or $42.63 per hour to play and rent their neon equipment. Some believe the fees may be too high for the average Malaysian, as the regular courts in Malaysia usually charge about 20 ringgit for access. And finally, a great hornbill has beaten cancer with the help of 3D technology and a medical team from Florida.
When veterinarians at Zoo Tampa first noticed a lesion suspected to be squamous cell carcinoma, a type of skin cancer, on the casque of a great hornbill known as Crescent, they knew they had to think creatively in order to save her.
Frequently, when this is diagnosed in hornbills, it is
unfortunately, a death sentence.
Dr. Baker found out that a great hornbill in Singapore had its beak replaced using 3D printed technology and immediately got to work looking for experts in the US who could help her to do the same thing, including physicians who typically work on humans.
Most of the time when we approach human physicians, they get very excited and they're like, oh, it's an animal. And, they really do want to help us, which is really exciting for us too, that they kind of, share our passion and really want to kind of participate in the care of these animals.
A private biomedical 3D laboratory designed a new custom 3D cast as well as a 3D printed surgical guide for surgeons on where they needed to remove the tumor. The surgeons used dental acrylic to seal the 3D printed cask to the hornbill's beak before using titanium screws to permanently attach it. Crescent, the 25-year-old hornbill who is 3 feet long, recovered almost immediately from the medical procedure and is now thriving with her new beak. She is the first great hornbill to get a 3D printed prosthetic beak in the US and only the second in the whole world, according to Zoo Tampa.
Oh, baby.
You got it.
Now let's have a look at the weather and what you can expect over the next few days. Thank you for watching the weekly Roundup here on EAC News Channel. More from EAC News teams in the daily Roundup Monday night at 8 p.m. See you then!